Good afternoon and welcome to this one more webinar from Telerik India. My name is Lohit GN. So today we're going to be looking at best of the both worlds, Kendo UI plus AngularJS. Uh, Thank you very much for jumping in early, or if you have just joined us, or I've seen many people had joined us early. So thank you very much for each one of you who had come in early, and for those of you who are now joining us. This is fantastic news for us. We have a lot of people today going through the this webinar, and then please bear with us. I'm at the mercy of my ISP. I'm supposed to be at a 20 Mbps line, but I still see many people saying like my voice is getting choppy. So sorry about that. I don't have any control on that. So having said that, let's start this webinar. So this is going to be best of the both worlds, Kendo UI and Angular. So a little bit about myself. If you are a regular here, you would have known more about me, and then you would have seen this slide deck a many number of times. But for those of you who are first time here, my name is Lohit Jian. That's the voice behind the microphone today. So that's the picture. I'm a technical evangelist with Telerik in India. I'm also a Microsoft MVP in the area of ASP.NET and IAS. I'm also an author. Wrote my first book last year, which is Windows Phone application development using F#. That's my official email ID, lohit.nagaraj@telerik.com. You can write to me regarding any of the Telerik things. I'm available on Twitter as Kashyapa, so that's my handle. Some of the links that you should bookmark, www.telerik.com, so that's our global corporate site. And kashyapas.com is my personal website where I mostly write on ASP.NET. TelerikHelper.net is where myself and then my colleagues from India, we keep writing on Telerik how-to articles. So some of the links that you should bookmark. And that's it about me. So agenda, it's a fairly simple agenda I have for today. I see a lag between the video, so what I speak and then the slide deck that you guys are seeing. So let me try to tune it. Like I will go slow. I'm looking at what you are seeing. So today's agenda is fairly simple. It's a 3-point agenda that I want to kind of go through today. So what I want to say, what I want to cover is basically first one, what is AngularJS? It's not going to be a deep dive on AngularJS. Somebody was asking, will you start from scratch? No, sorry, within 1 hour it's not possible. I have 3 things to cover. So what I'm going to be doing is just take you through what it takes to create an AngularJS application. A simple demo. You might have seen it already, or Angular gurus there who are watching us today. You will feel like, okay, it's the same thing I know. But yes, so that's the point. So for somebody who doesn't know what is Angular, we want to do a very basic demo of Angular, and then also we'll take a look at what is Kendo UI, and then showcase how you can use Kendo UI. There are 2 ways of usage. Like one is we call it as imperative usage. Another one is declarative usage. So I'm going to show you that, and then we'll see how do you integrate Kendo UI plus Angular. So basically this is a 3-point agenda we have today, and if you have any questions, please don't worry, you use the question and answers panel. I may not be able to answer it to you answer now, so I'm going to please, you would have to wait till the end of the webinar so that I spend the last 10 minutes or 15 minutes exclusively for the Q&A. So now AngularJS, basically what is AngularJS, right? So I was actually going through their website, so angularjs.org, and the first thing that struck me was in the fact page they have actually provided why they called this as Angular. I don't know if you guys had this question in your mind, why is it called Angular, right? Why not something else? So what exactly is NG? What exactly is Angular, right? So basically it turns out that if you have programmed a lot in HTML, you know that all the tags in HTML starts with a lesser than sign or a greater than sign, right? So those lesser than, so basically what I'm talking about is, let me show it to you. So when you write something like HTML, so what you're doing is basically you will say lesser than sign, then HTML, then greater than sign. So let me increase my font maybe a little bit. So what you see here, if I remove this HTML, so what you see on the right hand side and the left hand side, the arrow marks, they are actually technically known as angular brackets. Basically it's another name that we give. So it's known as angular bracket. So most of the things that you do with AngularJS is on your HTML tag. So what they say is, HTML has a Angular brackets and NG sounds like Angular. So that's why, the NG is actually picked out of that Angular brackets. So that's why the name AngularJS, and then that's why they used NG as for everything. You say NG dash app or NG dash model, or you say NG dash controller. So everything starts with NG. So that's why it's AngularJS, JavaScript. And that's pretty much what is AngularJS. So basically AngularJS is a JavaScript framework. It's very small. It's, I think, a minified version is somewhere on 36 KB is what they say. So it's very small, and it's a JavaScript framework, and it's 100% JavaScript, 100% client-side, and compatible with both desktop and mobile browsers. So if you use Angular as a framework in your web applications or in your mobile applications for basically the hybrid apps. Of course, this is a JavaScript, and if you want to create a mobile application using JavaScript, you would have to go the hybrid way. And in the hybrid way, you can actually put AngularJS as your framework, and since it's a hybrid mobile application, it will run on a browser engine on all the mobile platforms. So what they're saying is, desktop, anyway, it's supported. The desktop browsers all support it. Even the mobile browsers support this, because there's nothing fancy they are doing there. And it's pretty much it works everywhere. That's what they mean. So that's about AngularJS. Basically what they do is they have their own jQuery-like library. They call it as JQLite, and they don't basically the way this works is, if you have included jQuery in your script reference before Angular, they kind of look at if jQuery is already there. If yes, they make use of jQuery. Whereas if you have not included jQuery, they have their own framework called as JQLite. Basically it's not jQuery, rather they have kind of written the kind of stuff they need from jQuery as their own implementation. So they do a fallback. So it's fairly simple. If you want jQuery and you want to include jQuery, you can go ahead and do it. Angular will reuse jQuery's whatever is included. If the jQuery reference is not there, what the Angular will do is Angular will go and then use their own implementation. They call it as JQLite. So that's how pretty much Angular works in terms of dependency. And well, let's take a quick lap around Angular. So what I'm going to do now is bring my Visual Studio. And this is like an Angular. Let me dock it to the left. And let me get my IE, and I will say Angular hello world. What happened? Okay, there's one more extra. Oh, so let me do that. Okay, so basically what I want to do is, now I was practicing, so I have a lot of places something that I've added, so I'll just remove that. And yeah, let me remove all these guys. Just give me a second. I've been practicing, so I forgot to clear off everything. So let me just comment out these guys for now. Okay, so this is a fairly simple page, right? Basically, if I refresh my right-hand side, you see there's nothing. There's nothing. Basically, there's a search box, there's a customers. The idea is like, I want to basically showcase to you that, when I type something, I can actually get a data binding working. So whatever I type, I can show that in a label. And in the customers, what I want to do is I want to bind and then have rows coming out of this customer table, build up a customer table. So for Angular, what you would need to do is, so this is the example that I'm trying to showcase. I'm using, let me see if I have Angular included in my demos folder. I think I have demos. Yeah, I have. So what I can do is, instead of the CDN, I'll just fall back to the local. It will be faster for me. So I'm going to just go and then do this. So now all I've done is I've just added a script source called angular.min.js. That's it. There's nothing else Angular that is happening. So in order to start, what you would need to do is you would need to do something called as ng app, or let's say This is the famous example that everybody gives. So if I do this way, 2 plus 4, and then this is the Angular. Okay, let me increase my font maybe. Oh, this is too much. So this is an Angular expression. It's basically a data binding expression. What it does is whatever is inside Angular will go and then execute that. So I'm saying, add 2 plus 4. So now since there is nothing Angular-y in this particular page, if I go and then refresh the page, you will see that, did I save? Yeah. If you see here, it prints as is. It's pretty much doing 2 plus 4 as is because there's nothing Angular that's happening now. So in order to make this an Angular app, what you would need to do is you would have to say ng app. That's all you would have to do for now, simplest. So now if I do this, there you go. 2 plus 4 is 6. So now Angular, what it did is Angular came through, it saw that we have marked the body as an ng app, that is Angular app, and then what it did was, okay, I know what I need to do. This is my expression. So the Angular engine will know how to parse this, and it sees that I'm just telling 2 plus 4. It needs to do 2 plus 4. So it has done it. 2 plus 4 is equal to 6, right? So this is not interesting. So another interesting stuff that you will need to do is, so I have this, just I kept a search box, and if I kind of type anything inside here, so let's say Lohit, what I want to do is you're searching for Lohit or something like that. So I want to add you are searching for, and then I want to show whatever you type there, right? So that's the basically idea that I want to showcase now. So with Angular, all you do is you just say ng model, and you can just give some name. So I can say search string, right? So that's all. So and then now I can come back here and then say like, hey, you know what? I want you to output that search string. So now I'm going to go refresh my page here. So let me put a break here. Otherwise, I think it's cutting it off. Yeah, there you go. So now see what happens when I type. Okay, when I do L, you will see like, in the search string also it's giving me the output. So this is kind of two-way binding that comes out of the box in Angular. I don't have to do so. One another thing that you have to notice here is I haven't done any JavaScript as of now. It's two directives. So basically in Angular's terminology, this ng-app that you put on a tag is known as directive. These directives go ahead and then tell ng or the Angular framework what needs to be done. So this directive tells that convert this whole body into an app. So yes, so it converts that into an app. Then it says, hey, you know what? The input type is equal to text. It's a text box, so the value should be two-way data binded to a property called a search string. So that's why when I do this is a text box. You are inputting something into, you're doing an input into the text box. But here on the next line, you're doing an output of the same value of that variable. So this is two-way binding. So I can go here and then I can say Aditya or whatever. So you can see like it changes. Okay, that is a simple two-way data binding. Now one more thing that I can do is I can come back here and then say like ng-init, and I can say like customers is equal to, let's say I'll put Lohit, Aditya, and then Rashmi. Well, by the way, Aditya is my son and Rashmi is my wife, so I'm just taking their names here. So now what I've done is I've done an init, just to showcase what we can do. Here I can come here and then say like, okay, let me put a header maybe here. And okay, anyway, we don't need the header for now. We'll come back. So what I want to do is I want to showcase these three names maybe coming in a 3 rows in this table. So it's simple. So NG or Angular has a, so by the way, I'm using Visual Studio 2013. It's great because, out of the box, Visual Studio 2013, what they have done is they have put IntelliSense for all the Angular related directives. So here you can use ng repeat, and what I will do is cust in customers, and I'll come back here and then use Angular expression to say output cust. Okay, so let's see what happens. There you go. I have Lohit, Aditya, and Rashmi coming out. This is fine, but it doesn't feel good to have this hard-coded value on top of the tag itself, right? So what we will do is I'm going to remove this. Rather, Angular provides another concept called as module. So module is nothing but like a namespace that we do in C# or Java or anything. So it's basically a separation between your codes. So I want to come back here and then create an Angular module called this is a customer's app, or let's say this is Angular demos. Once and then this empty bracket is needed. So this is like an array. I'm passing an empty array saying like, hey, this app or this module does not depend on any dependencies. So I can depend on something. So what I can do is somebody is asking, I came with an expectation to do something more of Kendo with Angular. Is this session going to be an Angular basics? No, this is not an Angular basic. This is just touching the tip of what is Angular. Then I'll be jumping into Kendo. So just give me some time. It's hardly 15-20 minutes into the webinar. There are many people who don't know what is Angular. So that's why I want to just make sure that they are comfortable with Angular, then talk about Kendo, then say this is how you can integrate Kendo with Angular. So I hope you will be with me now. So let me do a little bit faster, go faster. So basically this is a dependency. Now since I added an app, I would have to come back here and then say here that ng app is equal to Angular demos, and then what I will do is I'll create a controller for my page. So I'm going to call it customers control and then function. So the $scope is basically every controller will get a value injected automatically by the Angular framework, and they call it a scope. So I'm just using scope.customer, and what I'm doing here is I'm saying ID is 1, name is Lohit, designation is evangelist, ID is 2, name is Abhishek, designation is country managers. That's all I'm going to do. So, but since I created a controller now, I need to tell Angular that, hey, you know what? You need to work with this controller. So I will come back here and then say, hey, in this application, so I can have more than one, I can have only one module defined as Angular demos, and then I can have multiple controllers under that module. So it's basically you're segregating your logics into whatever. Okay, somebody wants me to reduce my font size. Okay, so I hope this is okay now. So basically this is a grouping, or this is a modularizing your code. So now I'll come back here and then I will say customers control. And notice that the controller now has the scope.customer. So the scope is what is bound to this view. As soon as I say div ng controller customers control, this whole block inside is actually having a scope object, and that scope object is here. And on that scope object, I have the customers property, and then I'm using ng repeat customers and then doing this. So since we have now ID, name, and then designation, let's go ahead and then output that. So I'm going to say 2 more. And I will say name, and then I will say designation, and come back here, and there you go. So I have 1 Lohit evangelist, 2 Abhishek country managers. That's kind of a quick intro into Angular. So I hope if you know this about ng app and ng model, and then the ng repeat, and then actually the module and then controller concept is what is important here. Somebody is asking what is the what do you call the usage of ng model. So basically the way Angular treats every property that you have in your scope is like a model. So I need to, if I have scope dot some property is equal to Lohit, and so now let's say I want this input type text to be bound to the sum prop. So I can come back here, put this sum prop, and then if I reload here, you see this, it says Lohit is coming. So that is how pretty much they do this binding to properties basically in Angular. So that says simple stuff about Angular. So now let's go to my slide deck, and that's what the demo, quick lap around Angular. So now let's talk a little bit about Kendo UI. For those of you who don't know what is Kendo UI, the most complete, the Kendo UI is basically a JavaScript based client-side UI framework. So it's one of the most complete jQuery based UI toolkit available with full Angular integration. So that's the important part here. So we are supporting Angular with full integration out of the box. Angular, we've even Microsoft gone ahead and then supported Angular out of the box in their Visual Studio tooling. So that's because the community is going towards Angular. Many folks, like many people, are going towards Angular. So we also said, okay, we'll give full integration to Angular. By the way, Kendo UI is available in 2 versions. One is known as Kendo UI Core. That's the open source software from Telerik. You do not pay anything for your hobby project or your commercial projects. If you use Kendo UI Core, you don't pay anything. Only caveat there is Kendo UI Core comes with only 24 web widgets and the complete mobile widget. You don't get data visualization. So that's the part of the Kendo UI Core. And then in Kendo UI Professional, we have complete Kendo UI web plus data visualization plus the mobile. So advanced widgets like grid, scheduler, editor, they are all part of Professional and not in the core. They're not available in core. But core, and then we give you all the framework elements that I'm going to show you now. So basically, I wanted to show what is Kendo UI in one slide. So what I have done is, the next slide that you're going to see now, I've listed out the complete features that Kendo UI as a framework it provides. So there was animation, but you're not seeing the animation. So GoToMeeting is just playing out everything. So what you see there is, Kendo framework is nothing but it has got something called as data source. So data source is it's a JavaScript data source, and you pretty much use the data source to create, read, update, delete, against your endpoints, your server-side endpoints, so basically services. You can have a JSON-based service, and then you can just come back and then create a Kendo data source in your page, and then tell the data source that, hey, your read URL is so-and-so, your create URL is so-and-so, your update URL is so-and-so, your delete URL is so-and-so. The Kendo data source will do everything out of the box. So you do not have to write any code in order to make that happening. And of course, we have validation in place. So this validation is interesting. So we let you create HTML5 kind of markup for your validation, but if your code is running in a non-HTML5 browser, our validation will take care to make sure that the validation happens the way it should be. So we do a lot of polyfilling there. If there is an HTML5 browser, it's a HTML5 browser, we'll make use of HTML5 and then do that. And then globalization, we support a lot of globalized scripts. You just have to put the script and then set one line where you say kendo.global, localization, and then say which localities, and then all Kendo controls will kind of use that particular locale and then display the static strings with that. We support IE7 and above as part of Kendo UI. Globalization is so template. So we have our own templating engine. It's not a it's not we have not reused the jQuery template that was there, but rather we wrote our own stuff, and then it's slightly faster when compared to jQuery templating things. So we provide you templating out of the box. MVVM is available out of the box. The drag and drop feature is available out of the box. You can do effects like fade in, fade out. So complex effects can be done. You can chain effects using Kendo. Kendo also provides you SPA, the single page application framework. Plus the major one is widgets, so the controls themselves. So 24 widgets if you take Kendo UI Core, and then around 15 mobile widgets. Just give me a second. I think there's a plane flying over my house, so I think it's gone. So now, so we have widgets. So 24 widgets in web, and then close to the whole of mobile. Kendo UI Mobile is free as part of the Kendo UI Core. So if you needed advanced widgets like grid or a scheduler or a editor or the data visualization, you would have to go for our commercial version, which is known as Kendo UI Professional. But majority of the times, if you're doing an hobby development, so this is a good thing. So just go and download Kendo UI Core, and you will be able to go. Yeah, so these are all. So Kendo, the way we have created Kendo is there is something called as Kendo framework under the hood, and then on top of that you have the widgets or anything. So when you take Kendo UI Core or Kendo UI Professional, there is always those framework elements available, and the data source, validation, globalization, templating, MVVM, SPA, FX, drag and drop, these are always there. it comes to you out of the box. You don't have to worry about that. jQuery is not automatically included, so we depend on jQuery. So you got to make sure that before you reference Kendo UI, you have put the reference for jQuery. So that's what we will do. So we don't have anything out of the box for jQuery. We depend on jQuery. So not thank you. So sorry about that. So we'll go back and then take a look at some demos of Kendo UI. So this is something that I was doing. So let me go. So what we will need to do is we will need to first include styles kendo.common.min.css and then include styles and any specific theme that you want. So this is another interesting thing. So out of the box, Kendo ships with close to 7 to 8 themes. I'm going to use a default theme. So this is kendo.default.min.css, and then of course I have my jQuery kept here. So it's jQuery.min.css, and I need, what do I have? I have kendo.all.min.css. So this is all it requires to work with Kendo. So what I can do is I'll start with the same thing that we had seen earlier. So I'll come back to this. So let's assume you're doing the same thing that we did with the previous example with Angular. So how would you do that in Kendo? So it's simple. So first let's see how you create widgets. Before I go all those things, let me just comment out a couple of stuff here, because I want to show you how simple it is to create a widget. So let's assume we want to create a date picker. Okay, so here is my div, and I want to use input type is equal to, it's a text box, and then I want to give it an ID called, let's say, k date picker, and I want this to be converted into a date picker, right? So if I go now to Kendo hello world, there's nothing. It's a empty JavaScript file, so there's nothing that you see here, right? I don't get a date picker or anything. So how do you convert this into a date picker? Well, it is fairly simple. What you need to do is just come back here on document ready. What you can do is write a function and say like so I hope everybody knows jQuery, right? So that's what I'm going to do now. So I'm going to say $# k date picker and convert that into Kendo date picker. That's all it is. So if you've done any time a jQuery programming, it's going to look natural for you. So now when I do this, now you can see what happened here in the page. The text box got converted into a control called as date picker. So basically if I click on that, so the whole stuff gets created into date picker. Well, that's fine, but you know what is happening? Why is it not highlighting the current date? Well, that's because we didn't tell it to do that. So what we can do is we can come back here, pass options to date pickers. I can say like, hey, your value is new date of, right? That's what you do in JavaScript. So now if I do this, there you go, 9/11/2014. So it's selected. Okay. If I want to do something for let's say on change, I can do like this. Let's do an alert. I will say this dot value. So let's see if I'm right. So I'm going to select 24th. There you go. I just have to write a function, or we call it as options. You're giving options to Kendo date picker. So it says Wednesday, September 24, 2014, all those things. So it's a date time object. So there's a question, what is the difference between kendo.web.min.js to kendo.all.min.js? So basically when I say kendo.all, this particular JavaScript file is going to be a little bigger because it contains web, database, and what do you call it, mobile related code in one page. So usually when we are doing demo, we keep switching between all the three. So it's not easy for me to go and then change my the file. So the Kendo if you're programming only web, you should do kendo.web.min.js. If you're doing data visualization only, you should use kendo.dataviz.min.js. If you're doing mobile only, you should do kendo.mobile.min.js. So for this demo, I'm just, it's easier for me to just have one file and then do it. So it's not a best practice, but this is only for the demo. So that's the difference between, the three different files we give you. If you are using Kendo UI core, it will not be kendo.web.min.js, rather it will be kendo.ui.core.js or kendo.core.min.js. So that's what you will use. So having done that, so that's similarly, I can create any number of applications here. So I mean widgets here. So I can come back here and let's see, what do we do? What should I pick up? Let me pick up. Just give me a second. There's a question, is it secure in terms of security because of all cloud client side? I mean, I don't think I put my credit card or a SSN number here. So all I've done is, hey, there is a jQuery element or there is a HTML element, convert that guy into this particular control. That's all I've done. So I'm not sure what is the security concern there. Of course, if you're looking for, can somebody inject or anything, well, this is jQuery code running on the client side. You don't pass anything to server side here. So it all comes down to the client side and then it runs on the client side. So unless your browser is hacked, maybe I don't know how you can inject anything here. So what is a simple one I can do? Okay, there's a question, what is the difference between Kendo date picker and then jQuery date picker? Well, jQuery date picker is part of the jQuery UI and then Kendo date picker is part of the Kendo UI, and we provide a lot of options other than what you see in the jQuery things. So let me show you another thing. So we have something called as color picker. So it's basically it's kind of interesting. So let me just quickly show you how I can create a color picker. Let's say you have so in the interest of the time, I'm going to just pick up some code and then I'll say, like, this is what it is. I don't want to do a select preview. Rather, I'll just say value is white and then buttons false. So I'll come back here and then create a div, another div. And I will say this div's ID is picker. And come back here, do an F5. And there you go. So this is, yeah, there you go. So I can pick up anything, I can do anything, and there you go. So this is a cross browser thing. So you can come back here and then do a whatever color, you can change something, or you want to pick up here or use this gradient or whatever it is and then do that. And then I can actually output that particular value also. Now this is simple way of creating widgets. So what we will do is basically now pick up something about MVVM. So that is interesting because that's what we saw with Angular, right? So let's try to do that. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put all this back and explain you what I'm doing. So basically I'm going to remove this and show you that how MVVM is available out of the box. Of course, people may feel this is very simple demos that are happening, but within 1 hour, I think this is the justice I can do. So we have something called as kendo.data.observable object. So what I'm doing is created an observable object, created a property called customers. Now this array that you see here is observable. So basically, if anything is added or anything is removed, the change tracking is done by Kendo, and then anybody is consuming it, they will be notified of that. So I'm using the same data, 1, 2, Lohit, Abhishek, so those are the same thing. So here is the interesting thing that we do as part of the MVVM. All you need to do is kendo.bind, document.body, and then the view model. So now the way you bind is, basically you will say like, hey, on the so here's the thing. I have a table. I created a T head with the name, designation, and then I want the rows to be repeated, right? I want to get that many rows as that many data is there in my array. So now what I've said is data bind, source is customers, data template, row template. How should I output a row? So in my data I have the name and then designation. So what I've done is I've created a template. So this is the Kendo template. Basically it's a string, but internally when I say data dash template, Kendo engine does a lot of things. It creates the template, it takes the data and then spits out the HTML for you. So this is the syntax of Kendo templating, hash equal to, and then the column name in the data item itself. So basically what I'm doing now is I just created a template, gave it to the T-body, and then I've said kendo.bind and then do that. So let's cross my fingers and then run this app, and there you go. We have the data coming out. So basically in the source I have this customers, and now what I can do is let me go to console and let me check if the VM is available to me here. Okay, there I'm not sure if you guys are able to see my screen. Let me see that. Yeah, so I'm currently opening up F12, the developer tools, and then what I did was I saw if the VM object is available to me or not. Yes, it is available. So now what I can do is VM.get. So I have this property called customers, and I can just say push, and I will say ID is 3, then name is Alka, and then designation is account manager, and let's see what happens. There you go. Did you see? I just went ahead and then changed my property out of the on the console window. So I just added a item to my array. Since that array was observable, it internally converts that into an observable array. So basically what it did was it knew that somebody is already tied into this particular property, so that as soon as I did data bind source customers, it knows that I need to update that particular UI element and tell them to rebind themselves. So if I add one more, the table will come back, and then it will show you the fourth one. So now this is fine, but this table doesn't look good to me. So what I can do, if you are on Kendo UI Professional, what you can do is you can just come back here and then say like, hey, I want this to be a grid. That's all you need to say. So I'll save this, come back here, do an F5. Wow, what happened now? So we have, so let me remove this this one. We don't need this. So in fact, we don't need the whole T body at all. So I will say, hey, convert this table into, or even I don't need a table. I'll just go and then do a div. Okay, and then I'll do an F5 now. Boom, I have a, let me, in order to just showcase like this is really a, so what I will do is I'll just add the same items, so don't worry about if it is right or wrong. I want to just show that it has 5 items coming up. There you go. So it has that many items coming up. So all you saw was me just going and then saying data dash role is equal to a grid. So I can convert this into list view and then give it a template in all those things. So all the things are possible, but we have a problem. I don't want to see the show the ID. So what I can do is come back here and then say data dash columns is equal to double quotes, and then I can say just show me the name and then designation. That's all. I don't need anything else to be shown here. Come back here, refresh. I will have name and designation. That is fine, but I need to be sortable. So I will just say data dash sortable is equal to true. Save. Come back here, refresh. Do this. There you can see the grid is getting sorted. Well, that is fine, but I want to be filter. I need to filter this particular data, so I can come back here and then say data dash filterable, and then I will see now I get an Excel like filter. I can say contains ABH, and there you go, it gets filtered. So basically the point I'm trying to make is this is how you can work with Kendo UI. We give you the pretty UI for you. It's basically everything that you want to do with the UI. So now let's go to Kendo Angular stuff. So Kendo Angular is basically nothing but what we have done is we have gone ahead and then it used to be an open source project. We used to call it as Kendo Labs, and then as part of the Kendo Labs, one of our engineers had started working on creating this particular library called Kendo AngularJS. And we used to keep it as open source till now. So that means you had to explicitly add a JavaScript file called Kendo Angular.js, and then we were supporting the directory. But on April 12th or April 16th, we released Q2 2014, and on the same day we open source Kendo UI core. So as part of that, what we have done was we said, okay, let's support Angular out of the box. So you don't need to include another style sheet now. So as you can see, I have my Kendo common.min.css style sheet here. And then the jQuery has been put because Kendo requires jQuery, and then I've referenced Angular.js, and then I put just the kendo.all.min.cs. So if you want, you can put kendo.web, or if you want kendo.database or kendo.mobile. So everybody will contain the Angular directory out of the box. So what I've done here is, in the interest of the time, basically. So how do you start using Kendo, right? So let me comment out all these guys and then start with simple stuff. Of course, you will need to say like this is a ng app, and let's start with the same date picker that we saw. I can come back here, put a div, and what I will do is I'll say input type is equal to text. Or let's not do that. It will understand. So now, how do I use Kendo way? The Angular way of instantiating Kendo things, right? So for this, what you will need to do is first you have to go and then create an module. So let me call this as this Kendo demos app, and I'm going to go to my script, and basically what I will do is I've created my module, and I call it as Kendo demos app, and then this is important. So you need to say that this particular module depends on Kendo.directive. So without that, you cannot use the Angular way of doing things. So now what I will do is I'm going to go here and then say, like, remember what we did with Angular, or what we did with Kendo UI. In Angular, you just do a directive on the HTML tag. So here I can come back here and then say Kendo dash time picker. Okay, now let's come back here and then do a Kendo angular.html. So let me refresh again if you want. So there you go. So now what I'm doing is, if you see here, I showcased you how Kendo gets instantiated in Kendo Hello World, right? So you will say dot Kendo time picker or Kendo date picker, and then or you can do an data dash role Kendo grid, or grid or something like that. But with Angular way, it's not like that. It's in Angular, it's everything is directive. You need to put. So here Kendo dash data date dash picker is a directive, and then you have to put on the tag, and then the Angular engine will come in. It will try to look at all the directives what it has, and then it will convert your HTML into as per that whatever the directive does. So this is what we had to support. So that's why what we did was you have a dependency on Kendo.directives. Now this is coming as part of Kendo.all.min.js, or if you have web.min or a database.min or a mobile.min, doesn't matter. So it's basically has all the this particular directive there. So I'm just telling my Angular that, hey, I'm depending on Kendo.directives because there are certain directives available there. One of the all our controls have similar directives. So you can just say Kendo-grid, and you can say, like, for example, I can come back here and then do a table with tr5 and then with td having 3. Oh, what happened to my Zen coding? It's not coming. I don't have Web Essentials. Oh, okay. So I can do something like this. I can just say, like, Kendo grid. So let's see what happens. So there you go. It's coming there. So I can just put a tr here, td, and then say name, designation. Okay, let's refresh this here. Okay, it doesn't have data. What happened? Okay, it is coming. So let me see where I'm going wrong. So maybe I'll just move ahead. I'll come back to this. Give me a second. So you can do pretty much similar. So here is another example that I've used. Let me remove the date picker. You know, I have a Kendo menu here, and let me remove these guys. So what I'm doing is I have a Kendo menu here, and then I've created a controller. I've said Kendo.control, and I would have to put this in a div. Let me put this in a div, and then what I will do is I will say ng-controller is equal to my controller name is Kendo CTRL. So I've done that, and then look at the scope. The scope has one property called orientation. So what I've done is Kendo menu takes this orientation property. So one question you may have is, how do I know all this K dash, all those things? So what you can do is pretty much you can go to our, so if you go to docs.telerik.com/kendo-ui, we have all the things available, and then there is an API reference. So in the API reference, what I can do is I can just go into web UI, and we are looking at menu. So I can get into menu, and here I will come to know what are the configurational options it gives me. Like, you see this slide in, fade in, expand, all those things. So basically I may have this menu, and then I want this, so we were looking at orientation. So if you see here, there is a orientation here. So this is the property that I'm trying to use. By default it is horizontal, but I can give it a vertical also. So I can say, like, I want the menu to be vertical. So the idea here is by default it is horizontal here, set in the controller, and then what I have done is I've created a Kendo drop-down list. So this is another way to create Kendo drop-down control. So this is a normal select, but we will convert that into Kendo drop-down list to look cool, all those things. And then what I've done is K-ng-model. So the difference between ng, so you saw in the first example when I was doing a Angular that I used ng-model. So what ng-model does is the value is given to you as a string, but here I want this to come as a object. Let's assume this was a complex object here. In this example, yes, this is a normal string, but what if it were to be a complex object? So I want, for example, date. So date is an object, it's not a string. So I want the whole date object to come here. So then you will use k-ng-model. If you just use ng-model, it would have given you the string version of the date. So that's the difference. Don't get confused. So now what I have done is scope orientation. I have bound the drop-down list to this model object, since everybody is running off this controller. So both Kendo menu and the drop-down list, they have the orientation is binded to that same orientation property from the scope. ng model is bound to the orientation of the from the scope. So now when I go ahead and then let me see if I have done any mistake. No, Kendo drop-down list, horizontal, vertical, so seems to be good. So let me come back here, refresh this. So now what you're seeing is, let me put a break, otherwise, yeah, there's a question, can we make use of JSON data? Absolutely. So you can go the route of Angular using $http.get, or you can use kendo.data.data source. It's up to you, whichever way you want to use it. So now what you're seeing is I've created a menu, and then menu is coming with horizontal because, by default it is set to horizontal. And then what I've done is whenever there is a change, so it's not reflecting that. So that's because if you remember here, I had put one function called as k-rebind is equal to orientation. So what it does is whenever any scope variable changes its value, I'm telling Kendo to rebind this particular widget with that particular property. So that's the concept here. So I'm going to go here and then say vertical. There you go. Did you see that? The whole menu became vertical now, right? So I can go and then do an horizontal, I can do in vertical. So if I remove this, it doesn't know what needs to be done when a variable is changing, when the scope variable is changing. So basically you can just say k dash orientation and then just give it, and then it will pretty much go and then rebind it. There's a question why Visual Studio is not showing functionality of IntelliSense of Kendo. Well, basically I don't have this reference. You can go to Visual Studio's tools and then IntelliSense and then say like, hey, these are the reference files that you should use it. So basically you need to go on and put the map file. I haven't done that, so that's what it is. So this is what we have as part of Angular. So this is another way of doing Angular things. What else? Kendo date picker, I showed you that. And yeah, so you can do pretty much these kind of things. Like for example, I can show you like a slider example that's cool to look at it. Let me get the slider example. So basically what you would do is you will have the same controller, everything. So let me remove this so you got the point, what is done. So I'll show you some of the ways how we can use different things. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just define two variables. I'm going to call it as width and height, and I'm going to create two sliders. Okay, and then I'm going to bind them to this particular. So there you go. So all I'm doing is I created a div, and I said I want a Kendo slider, but the model should be bound to the width. And then similarly, I've created this, and then I will bind this to height. But what I want to do is I want this guy to be, the orientation of this should be vertical. Okay, so let me refresh the page. Oh, why did not take it? Okay, orientation, spelling mistake. Okay, typo. What happened? ng model height. Think I'm having. I think the spelling mistake may be there here. So let me just. Okay. Yeah, there you go. So basically, width and height is what I've put. So what I can do now is you can pretty much come back here and then put a break, and then you can do like, width, and you can do comma height, right? Refresh this, and if you see here, there you go. These kind of cool things, you can pretty much do a lot of things with that. I can say like, the max that I want. By default, the slider will support only 10, but I can go back here and then say like, k min is equal to 1, and k dash max is equal to, let's say, 20. We'll work with 20 for now. So you come back here and then do it. So you see that? Okay, let me put a style and then say like, width is somewhere around 200 or 100 px. Oh, 100 is too small, so I'll do a 300 px. Yeah, this is better. So, or maybe we can go a little bit more, 500 px. There you go. So I can put the same thing here for this guy, and I will say height. Okay, let's do the same. Okay, so there you go. So now you can pretty much I'll do the same, k min and max to these guys, and what happened? K max, it didn't take. Oh, I've not saved my file, so sorry about that. So there you go. So basically, I'm just trying to showcase all the different kind of things you can. So the height is at 7 now, the width is at 10. So basically, you can make use of these sliders to maybe give positioning, maybe an image styling or whatever. Basically. So you can see that Angular is I bound this particular slider to this ng model. So this is my view model. Kind of view model has this width property and height property. By default, I set it to 0. Whereas you can say like, by default is 10 and 10. So now come back here and then do this fi. You can pretty much see that by default the sliders are now set at 10 and 10. So this is what you see here. And so another thing that you may want to do with this is, okay, this is one of the examples. So remember in the Kendo Hello World, what I did was I showcased options being passed to the date picker, right? So how do you do that in Angular things? So I can say like Kendo date picker. So once I do this, I'm going to get the date picker, right? So there's no doubt about that. So I'll get a date picker. And then what I want to do is I want some configurations on this particular widgets itself. So what I can do is I can come back here in the scope and then put some configurational values. Let's assume you want to use the date picker to pick only year. So user cannot select anything other than year. So what I will do is so these are some of the things that you can get it in our what do you call API reference. So let me show you the API reference once again. So docs.telerik.com/kendo-ui. So if you see here, if you go to the API reference and then pick up JavaScript, UI, and then date picker, what the configuration that I'm providing is start depth format, right? So if you see here in the configuration, we'll have a depth. So depth means how far a user can navigate within this one. So month, year, decade, and century. So we have these settings. So I'm going to say like user can select only year. So that's the depth he can go, month and a year kind of things. And then also we saw something called as start. So where should it start? So we can start at month, we can start at year, we can start at a decade, we can start at century. So I've said start at year, and what format do you want to see on the thing? So if you see here in the configuration, we have this format. So it says specifies the format which is used to format the value of the date picker displayed in the input. So when I say date picker, right, so I'll get this input. So this is the text box. So this is the format will be used to format the value that's being shown here. So let me do this. And how do you tell the date picker to use this particular options? It's simple. What we'll do is we'll say k-options is equal to give this particular variable name. That's it. So now when I refresh, you will see like now it's giving me only month. Of course, it will show the current date, but other than the month, I cannot drill down anything. I can just go up to the year, select a year, and then select this particular, and then look at the format that has been done here. It says month and a year. So this is another interesting thing that you should know about how to pass configuration, because most of the Kendo widgets, what they do is they are having, so most of the widgets have these configurational values. This is something that you can pass when a Kendo UI widget is being created. So that's why I wanted to talk about this, like how you pass the options and all those things. And anything else that I need to handle? Yes. So there is one more thing that we may want to handle, and that is what if the user has selected the value, right? And now I want to react to this event. So if you look at the documentation, we have certain events. We have events for change, we have event for close, we have event for open. So let's assume I want to handle a selected, if a value is selected, I want to handle that. So you can put it here. What you can do is you can say like, I want to handle the change event, and this is the change event handler. And here what I'm going to do is I will say like var date picker is equal to e.sender. So we give you that option, and then I can say and I'll create one more variable here. $scope dot selected is equal to true, and I will say $scope dot digest because it has to see that, you know, I created a new variable now on the scope itself, so it needs to know that. So and then what I will do is I'll basically have a you know, just below the date picker I'll put something like, hey, um, you know, a month was picked. You know, whenever somebody picks a month, I want to show that. So, and I can actually go and then do something like, you know, I can pretty much say like, you know, date picker dot value. I can write it to the console, and then that's it. So basically, you have created a date picker. You have passed an option. In the option, you have said, hey, whenever there is a changes happening on the value, on your value, I want to listen to that. So I have provided a change handler. What I'm doing is this needs to go to the second line. What I'm doing is I'm getting the reference to that particular control, and then I'm saying get the value, and then there is a selected variable, so I've said true. So now when I refresh this guy, there's nothing, and I select a particular ng show selected is equal to $scope digest or $digest, sorry, that's my mistake. And I'll come back here, I'll select, so there you go, a month was picked. So basically this is how you can react to you know, the event handlers within the for the Kendo UI. There is another way to handle this particular thing. Let's say you don't want to do it within this particular configuration, the options, you know, let the options be the options, but I don't want to handle it here. Rather, I want to handle it on the scope itself. So maybe what you want to do is the same thing. I'll cut this out, and I'll show you another way where you can do the handling. So I will say $scope dot on change is equal to, you know, it's the same function, right? So I'm just saying $scope on change is equal to function, and then I'm doing the same stuff, but instead of putting the event handler in the options, I've just provided on the scope itself. Now what I can do is I can come back here, and then I can say like, hey, k underscore on change, you know, this is one of the directives that we provide. But the way you do this is you have to say like on change, but this is a Kendo event. So this is important. You will need to say that. So the k, if you are using this k dash attribute, so just give me a second. I think my so this is the way. The Kendo event is a very special keyword that we need. What happens is there'll be the Angular will create this particular you know, object and then send it to the you know, we parse it and we see that this is a Kendo event, and we'll let that, because if you see here I'm saying e.sender, sender will be the Kendo date picker. So now let's come back here, and we'll no need to use the digest when you do this way. So the same thing, I can select this, there you go. So a month was picked. So there are a couple of ways in which you can do it. If you're comfortable with providing an event handler within the options object, you can pretty much do it that way. Or I would suggest to go put the handler on the scope because it looks neat. The configurational object will be only config, so let it do its responsibility of providing options, and the event themselves can be put on the scope itself so that we know that, oh, this is on change, this is what we are doing, and then do that. Of course, we have not seen the console window, so if I refresh this and select a particular thing, so if you see here, it's giving me the full date time object because we are saying date picker dot value. So that's how you do that. And anything else that I would want to talk about? Pretty much most of the widget things that we do is like this. So let's take an example of maybe a grid now. So what I will do is I'm going to create a couple of things here. One is, now in the interest of the time, I'm just copy pasting the code, so I'll explain what the code is all about. This is static data, so I'm having an artist track, and then the column that I need is field is artist, title is artist, field is track, title is track with the TK. So I have a grid data, I have the grid columns, and what I will do is in the instead of the date picker or anything, so I'll just remove this. And I'll come back here and then see, yeah, this is the way you will create a grid using Kendo Angular directive. So you just have to say Kendo-grid, and then what is the data source? So for the K-data-source, the data is actually grid data. The columns is grid columns. Can I select? Yes. K-on change is selected is equal to data. So basically what I'm doing is on the scope, it's going to now go and then create a selected thing. And then similarly what we can do is you can come back here and then use a P, and you can say like, a row was selected kind of stuff. So let's go over it again. I have a controller has grid data array, grid columns array, because I need to give the columns here and then the data source here selectable true. So yeah, you may ask me like, why I need to provide a columns here. Can the grid infer from the data? Yes. Many of the times what you need to do, you may have it like, the data which is coming from the service, the JSON data, it comes with ID, identifier, but you don't want to show the ID in the columns, right? So that's why we need to give what are the columns that I want to see on the output or the UI. The actual data item may contain 10 columns, but I don't want to show all the 10 on the UI. I want to show only the 5. So that is what you define in the K-columns that you do. So now let me go ahead and then refresh this page. Hopefully it should work. Yeah, there you go. So I have the 3 things coming up, and then you can pretty much select it, and there you go. If you see here, it says a row was selected, right? I can go to one level, and what I can do is, if you see here, what I have done is I have said selected is equal to data. So this data is nothing but the current row that is being selected. So instead of a row was selected, let's go and then do something interesting. So that is, let me go and then output what the row data itself in a separate label or something like that. So if you see here, I have an input ng-model selected.artist, input ng.model selected.track, right? So this will be showing the selected data's thing. So Pink Floyd, so that's coming. Let me go and then put a class, and I think we call it as k-text box. Let me see if I got the name right. Yeah, I got the name right, so that it looks a little bit neat. By the way, it's not a control, but rather it's just a styling for the text box. We don't have any text box control in Kendo. So if I select this, so there you go, I have this, so Pink Floyd edited. There you go. See what is happening now. Since it's data bounded, I just went ahead and then did a artist. I updated the value. So if you see here, the actual row is also getting updated. I can come back here. You see that the edited stays because it's been data bound and it's been edited. So similarly, I can come back here and queen, let's edit the queen also. So this is how you pretty much easy to work with Angular. So the point that we are trying to make here is Angular is great, Kendo UI is great. So if you are kind of day in and day out working with Angular, fine, we don't want to change that. But what the message we want to give you is Angular is only a framework. It doesn't contain the widgets, all those things. So you want some pretty looking UI, some good looking UI. So what you should do is you use Kendo UI as the UI layer, as the controls set or the control suite, but be within your Angular. And then what you can do is, you saw we gave you the Angular directives. So go ahead with Angular directives, do all those things. So I will tell you why you should go for Kendo UI controls. What you're seeing now is okay, let me go ahead and then maybe maximize this and then we'll come back. So what you're seeing here is, I told you that I have used a default theme, right? So we have not one but 7 themes out of the box. So let me tell you what are the themes available. Give me a second. Okay, so the one of the themes that we have is Blue Opal. So I will say Blue Opal and come back to the UI, do this. There you go. So look at what happened. The selection, row color, the grid, the whole grid got changed into Blue Opal. That's fine. So what else I have? I have Bootstrap. So let's say you are using Bootstrap as a layouting technology. So and then you want to use Kendo UI as a front end. So there you go. So we have the Bootstrap's default, the bluish theme. Not only that, we have silver. So maybe you like silver color. So it's pretty similar to Bootstrap. And what else do I have? Okay, I used to like this Metro theme because it's simple and then elegant. So if you see here, the greenish things coming up. And not only that, I have one more that I like. It's Moonlight. I love this color. There you go. So I like this blackish, the orangish things that come up. And we do have, like, 8 out of the box we support close to 11 themes that you can use. So we also have something called as flat theme. There you go. So this is, I like another theme that I like is this flat theme because it looks so elegant. So pretty much this is what we wanted to address today, showcase to you that how you can pretty much use Kendo UI, the Kendo UI controls as part of your Angular application. So I like to call this as prettify your UI with Kendo UI in your Angular apps. So that is what we wanted to showcase. And of course, I know it's within 1 hour. This is all I can do. The due diligence that I can do for the demos. So that's pretty much what we had for today. Showcase what is Kendo UI, what is Angular, and then showcase how the Angular Kendo UI integration works. So we have a lot of directives for all of our controls. Similarly, what I showed you was today only web. We have demos for data viz with Angular. We have demos for mobile with Angular. So you can pretty much do anything. So let me now take the time to look at the questions. I know many of you have a lot of questions. I couldn't take it at the time of doing the webinar. So for the interest of the people who are going to listen to this maybe an on demand, so thank you very much for everybody. So I'm going to stop the recording now. We thank each one of you who made it to the webinar. So hang around. So I'll be taking the Q&A, but for the on demand guys, we're going to end the webinar here. So thank you very much.